Your struggle to stay on course happens because you've been conditioned to study with a reader's brain instead of a hunter's brain. This means shifting to a tactical framework where you deliberately seize knowledge rather than just passively absorbing it. This approach puts you in command and makes your advancements permanent, empowering you to break the cycle of constant restarts and finally make headway. We begin with a straightforward process for locating the vital 20% of any source that yields 80% of the value. System 1. Demand answers. Don't just absorb. The key to making information stick is determining your objective before you even begin. You complete a chapter and feel a momentary spark of inspiration, but it disappears hours later. The concepts grow hazy, you feel unfocused once more, and you can't establish a rhythm. This problem isn't rooted in your memory, it's grounded in your method. You're attempting to passively receive information when you ought to be actively pursuing it. This technique is called interrogation. Ahead of reading a single word, you determine exactly what you aim to pull from the content. These inquiries cannot be gentle, though. It's not about asking, "What is the general topic here?" That approach is far too inert. The questions must be self-serving. For instance, from this page, what singular routine can I establish? Or, locate the one phrase that resolves my issue with procrastination. This act of preliminary questioning establishes a clear directive. What occurs when you supply your brain with a target instead of a task? A switch is flipped. Your mind ceases to be a receptive reader and evolves into a proactive hunter, combing through the text for particular solutions to your questions. This is the way you prevent getting derailed. You stop merely hoping for a breakthrough and start targeting one instead. Converts passive intake into a focused assault, simplifying the act of building momentum and turning erratic days into steady advancement. You make the knowledge endure because you went in with a clear purpose. System 2. Pinpointing the critical core. Is it necessary to consume every single word to grasp the value? That common assumption is precisely why your initial enthusiasm wanes, leaving you overwhelmed by a massive volume of material and with your focus fragmented. A straightforward principle, known as the 80-20 rule, suggests that for most things, the vast majority of results, 80%, stem from a small fraction of the exertion, just 20%. This concept holds true for information as well. The central thesis of many nonfiction works, roughly 80% of it, is often contained within fewer than 40 pages. The challenge, then, is locating those specific pages without having to process everything else. You must abandon the cover-to-cover approach. Instead, your first step is to construct a map. By reading only the introduction and the conclusion, you expose the author's complete line of reasoning from beginning to end. After that, survey the table of contents and every chapter title, subheading, and piece of bolded text. At this stage, your objective isn't to absorb information, it's to discern the framework. This method isn't about avoiding effort, it's about executing the correct tasks first. You're identifying the foundational pillars of the idea before you get bogged down in the minutiae. This is how you generate momentum and achieve tangible progress rather than finding yourself stalled and unable to advance. Vocalize to internalize. That sense of comprehension you get from new material, it's frequently an illusion. There's a significant divide between merely acknowledging a concept on paper and truly internalizing it. This gap is the reason you can feel sharp one minute and completely disoriented the next, struggling to find your flow. A straightforward method exists for bridging that divide. While it's occasionally labeled the Feynman technique, the crucial part is the activity itself. Articulate the idea aloud, even to an unoccupied space, using the most basic language possible. Pretend you are instructing a complete beginner. Engaging in this practice compels your mind to shift gears, moving away from passive absorption and toward active creation. Rather than simply observing the text, you are forced to retrieve the correct terminology, arrange it logically, and assemble the entire concept from the ground up. What occurs when you attempt this? It's nearly guaranteed you will falter. You might find yourself losing your train of thought, overlooking a critical stage, or discovering an inability to link one element to another. This faltering is not a sign of defeat. Think of it as a blueprint. Each instance of uncertainty serves as a precise diagnostic, highlighting the specific area where your comprehension is fragile. It tells you exactly what part of the material needs revisiting. This is the method to cease feeling disoriented and begin achieving tangible advancement. When you are capable of articulating a topic with simplicity, you have truly mastered it, providing a firm groundwork for future learning and making it significantly more difficult to get derailed. Pressure cooker. When tackling a whole subject, the methods that work for one chapter frequently fall short. Faced with a vast, daunting field, the old approaches can leave you frozen. Your focus scatters and your motivation wanes before you even get going. Here, you must shift from amassing individual techniques to constructing a genuine system. The approach is to corner your brain with a severe, inflexible time limit. This has little to do with grinding and everything to do with biology. A strict deadline alters how your mind operates, forging focus and drive from absolute necessity. The strain isn't a matter of willpower, it's an accelerant. It shocks your brain out of its latent, "I'll do it eventually" state and fires up its most effective processing systems. Given an unreasonable deadline, for instance, 3 hours to understand a complicated topic, you lack the luxury of reading every word. You are compelled to locate the 20% of the content that provides 80% of the insight. You are compelled to probe the text with pointed questions, as there's no room for passive consumption. You are compelled to re-explain it to yourself to ensure you've absorbed it, because you haven't got the time to get disoriented. Is it intense? Absolutely. But the benefit is that it forces all the tactics we've explored to function in concert as a single accelerated workflow. The aim is not total expertise by the end of the day. The aim is to erect a sturdy mental scaffold in a single afternoon. This shatters the paralysis that stems from being inundated. It supplies a foundation and the impetus you require to advance on any tough problem, confirming for yourself that you can achieve tangible results instead of merely intending to. Making concepts memorable with strange doodles. Glance over at your journal. All those tidy rows, immaculate bulleted lists, and meticulously shaded passages. While it seems constructive, this approach is frequently the reason you get derailed. Your journal isn't an instrument for comprehension. It's a mausoleum where new knowledge gets entombed. A more effective path exists for making information permanent, a method that leverages your mind's inherent design rather than fighting it. Here is a straightforward technique to end that feeling of being disorganized and finally start gaining traction. Your mind gives preference to visuals over words. This phenomenon is known as the picture superiority effect, and the evidence is straightforward. Have you ever considered how you can remember a film sequence from your childhood, yet the page you just scanned is a total blur? A picture establishes two distinct retrieval cues, its visual form and its verbal label, which doubles the odds of locating it in your memory. There is another component at play. The mind is programmed to retain information that is peculiar, outlandish, or unusual. It seizes onto the absurd since it disrupts the expected sequence. This is a built-in advantage, not a system error. So, what's the application? Quit taking sequential notes. To ingrain a new routine, such as have a glass of water upon waking, don't simply jot down the words. Instead, sketch a small, furious alarm clock submerged in an enormous tumbler of water. The whole thing takes mere moments. The goal isn't artistic mastery. It's about forging a bizarre, powerful visual hook. This is the secret to making concepts truly take hold. You cease passively transcribing words and begin generating peculiar, unforgettable mental pictures. You assemble a gallery of these odd little doodles in your head, where each one serves as a potent trigger that instantly reels the whole idea back into your consciousness, making sure you never misplace the core thought again. Focusing your efforts for advancement. The most rapid path to professional recognition isn't about learning more, it's about learning less. This isn't a cop-out, it's a tactical plan. Advancing your career often means acquiring a new capability, such as data analysis. The problem is, the subject seems enormous, and you feel disorganized just thinking about it. You end up procrastinating, your motivation wanes, and it's all because you're caught in the trap of believing you have to master the whole topic. You're facing a tactical misstep, not an educational deficit. A straightforward filter exists to break through this paralysis, known as the one dumb question. True to its name, this method compels you to address a single, almost absurdly simple query to pinpoint the one most worthwhile use for a new skill. Rather than attempting to learn data analysis in its entirety, you pose this question. If I were limited to using this ability to fix just one issue my supervisor frequently laments, which one would it be? Your response then defines your objective. Automate the weekly sales report my manager manually constructs for 4 hours each Friday. All at once, your objective is no longer massive and indefinite. It becomes precise. It becomes targeted. This new clarity provides the drive you need to start making real progress. At this point, the whole framework we have constructed turns into a set of tools dedicated to this single objective. You'll scrutinize each part of a course with the question, will this assist me in creating that exact report? The 20/80 breakdown is employed to isolate the small number of functions that provide the most impact. By setting micro-deadlines, you can time-trap your focus to learn a single function at a time, disregarding all other distractions. Finally, you articulate the process aloud to reveal any gaps in your understanding. Right. To pull the prior week's sales figures, my initial step is to establish a connection with the database. When it comes to the game of career advancement, a specific, targeted contribution is what garners attention, not the diffuse attempt to absorb everything. You won't emerge as a master of data analysis. Instead, you'll be known as the individual who resolved a single, conspicuous, high-impact issue. Power of completion. Juggling numerous projects successfully doesn't come from getting better at multitasking. The actual solution is a framework designed to make multitasking impossible. This isn't a personal failing, it's a breakdown in your methodology. You know the feeling. Countless browser tabs are active, and several distinct projects are demanding your focus simultaneously. While you're certainly occupied, genuine advancement is elusive. A sense of being spread thin takes over, and you notice crucial details beginning to get lost. The answer is to cease storing the entire plan inside your mind and instead construct an outside framework. Why continue to push your brain to operate in a way it wasn't built for? You can implement a streamlined variation of a workflow technique known as personal Kanban. No application is required, only a blank wall and a few adhesive notes are necessary. Establish 3 straightforward columns: to do, doing, and done. Each responsibility you have is placed in the to-do lane. Merely externalizing your tasks this way can foster a greater sense of command. The true strength of this method, however, doesn't lie in these columns, which are merely holding areas. It originates from a single principle that seems entirely paradoxical at first. On your doing column, you must impose a rigid cap. Never have more than 3 tasks in progress simultaneously. No exceptions. This restriction isn't a handicap, it's a tool for concentration. Before you can begin a new item, it compels you to complete your current work. By preventing you from generating your own workflow obstructions, you'll find a shift in your focus. All at once, your efforts are no longer about initiating tasks, but about completing them. The objective ceases to be about appearing occupied and becomes about transferring a note from the doing to the done pile. What results is a consistent, fluid stream of finished assignments. The sensation of being spread thin is replaced by irrefutable, visible evidence of your advancement. You begin to generate genuine momentum, one concluded task after another. Getting to the root of an issue. You're stalled on a project, your momentum gone. So you fire up your browser to seek out an intricate productivity system or an advanced app. Anything to kickstart your efforts. This pursuit of an elaborate solution happens because the task seems massive and you're struggling to find your flow. That hunt for complexity is a snare. It gives the illusion of progress, but it's frequently just a more sophisticated method of procrastination. The genuine route to regaining momentum isn't a more complicated system. It's profound directness. We've previously discussed verbalizing concepts to identify holes in your learning. That concept originates with the physicist Richard Feynman, but it represented only a minor component of his actual cognitive framework for tackling any challenge. His core principle wasn't about learning tricks, it was rooted in intellectual integrity. Feynman was convinced that the true measure of comprehension was the ability to articulate a concept plainly, viewing the use of technical language to obscure meaning as a personal failing. This conviction culminated in his primary maxim: you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. So, how can a rule for physicists be of use when you're constantly getting derailed? You utilize this first principles thinking in your personal situation. You abandon ambiguous aims like, I need to be more disciplined, and instead deconstruct the issue down to its fundamental realities, as if explaining it to a young child. I'm procrastinating on my work. Ask why. What's the bedrock fact here? Getting started is intimidating. The initial action seems immense. So, what is the most minuscule action you could possibly take? Launch the file, and type a single sentence. This is no mere mental trick. It's a framework for piercing the self-deception that holds you back. It makes you face the straightforward, manageable truth of your situation rather than the intricate, paralyzing narrative you tell yourself. You uncover the genuine basis of the issue, and from that point, you can establish authentic, consistent momentum. Building focus in a world of distraction. Here's the unvarnished truth. You consume podcasts at double speed and scan news briefs while you're standing around. You maintain a collection of saved articles you swear you'll get to. It creates an illusion of being productive, perhaps even well-informed. But you aren't becoming more intelligent, you're simply becoming saturated. Your brain is being reconfigured for distraction, which is why you feel disoriented and the days just melt into one another. The issue isn't the data itself, but the absence of a proper filter. The necessary change is to handle what you absorbed with the same rigor you'd use for a dietary plan. You wouldn't gorge on junk food all day and anticipate feeling powerful. Why would your mental consumption be treated any differently? This unending flow of disjointed information produces a persistent haze of mental fog. It silently erodes the ability for profound, concentrated thought, the exact skill required to advance and achieve genuine progress. The foundational shift is a transition from passive, just-in-case absorption to active, just-in-time application. The objective is no longer about knowing it all. The objective is being capable of locating precisely what's required at the exact moment it's necessary. Cease stockpiling content you might use someday. That tendency is a straight line to becoming inundated and losing momentum. Instead, pursue information only for a pressing issue you're tackling in the present. Need to construct a shelf? Locate the single video that explains the process. Need to grasp a new software function for your job? Find the one tutorial for that explicit task. Initially, this method can seem limiting. It might feel like you're opting to be unaware. This isn't about promoting ignorance, however. It's about cultivating focus. You cease being a passive recipient swamped by static and emerge as the designer of your own concentration. This is the framework that enables you to discover your rhythm and generate unstoppable forward motion. Mind as a CPU, not a storage unit. Insider truth. Throughout these sections, we've been refining our methods. The genuine transformation, however, arises from uprooting one solitary mistaken belief you have about your own intellect. You've been handling your mind as if it were a storage unit, a device you cram with data, task specifics, and anxieties. When it seems overstuffed or sluggish, what's your immediate instinct? You fault its storage limit. You declare, "My memory is terrible," or "It's impossible to manage everything." Such an assessment is mistaken. Your brain isn't a storage disk, it's a central processing unit. Its essential function isn't retaining data, but rather forging links, resolving challenges, and conceiving new concepts. Attempting to utilize a CPU for long-term data retention is a surefire way to trigger a total system failure. Herein lies the reason for your sense of disarray. A tremendous cognitive burden is produced by the continuous background strain of remembering it all. Your task list, the article you intended to review, your concerns about a new initiative. This is the very thing preventing you from establishing a steady workflow. You've assigned the incorrect task to your most potent faculty. Consider now all the methods we've explored. These weren't gimmicks for memorization, they were strategies for processing. Every single one was constructed to move information from your mind into an external structure, freeing your brain to perform its actual job. Questioning a chapter provides the processor with a distinct challenge to tackle. The 20-80 principle serves as a sieve, preventing it from expending energy on irrelevant information. Explaining a concept aloud acts as a system check to locate errors. Your Kanban board functions as your outboard storage device. The objective was never to develop a larger memory, it was to construct a superior system. Cease attempting to retain it all. Implement an information diet. Employ external supports. Allow your mind to do what it's built for, to process and create. This is your path to overcoming that fragmented feeling and truly discovering your rhythm. This is the way you make progress.